It's letting go of limiting beliefs. And those are the beliefs that we believe about ourselves that are unworthy and not enough. And beliefs can be changed. Events and circumstances aren't. They're just our history. But how we view those can change. And we
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. Thank you so much for being here. You're in for a treat. I have with me Marcus and Sheila Gillette. They are the host of the popular web series AskTHEO Live. Additionally, they also share Theo's wisdom through public Theo experiences, television and radio appearances worldwide, and in several live and online mentoring programs. They are the co-authors of The Soul True, A Guide to Inner Peace. Sheila is the author of her first groundbreaking book, The Fifth Dimension, Channel to a New Reality. And today we're going to speak about their new book, The Art of Relationship, Discover the Magic of Unconditional Love. And so we did. And if you want to know more about Sheila and Theo, you can go to episode 254, Messages from Above with Sheila Gillette and Theo, where she shared her journey of channeling 12 archangels by the name of Theo. Today we spoke about magical and multi-dimensional love story. They had an incredible love story. It's just so fascinating. And they share how you recognize each other when you actually see the one, and how you can attract the one, and in general, the importance of relationships in every area of your life and how to navigate it. I also shared my personal experience with them as a couple when we had dinner and a glass of wine together. I hope you will enjoy this episode and enjoy the conversation. And if you do, please share it with your friends and share it with the world. Now, without further ado, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion, and I have with me the incredible, phenomenal Marcus and Sheila Gillette. Thank you both for being here. And you've been a guest on the show before, and a lot of people loved that episode. And I'm so grateful to have you back again. So thank you so much for joining us today.
We're happy to be here.
We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for the invitation. I guess it's catching.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I had this allergic reaction before we started. So listen, you have this new beautiful book. It's called The Art of Relationship. And I'm
Yes.
sure that everybody that is alive needs to have this book, because relationship is such a strong, important thing. We are social animals, and relationship between intimate partners, relationship between family members, co-workers, and especially the intimate relationship with ourselves is so crucial to our joy and to our happiness. Maybe we can start with, how did you meet, and what was your origin story as a couple? What was it like?
Magical. It was those magic moments. Marcus, do you want to start with your end of the story?
So we'll give you the Reader's Digest version of this right now, Orion. I met a woman in the parking lot of a grocery store in 1995, which was in and of itself a story of magic, because I had just how we met was just, one of those crazy synchronistic things. And she gave me ultimately a copy of Sheila's first book, The Fifth Dimension, Channels to a New Reality, that she published back in 1988. And I read that book and I loved it. It was just a book of Theo's teachings. In fact, it was a groundbreaking book talking about the time, literally the time we're living in right now, all kinds of prophecy that's come true since Sheila published that book. But anyway, she came to town to do a speaking engagement, and this mutual friend of ours called me up and said, "Hey, Sheila's coming to town. The woman who wrote that book I gave you a couple of years ago. Do you want to meet her?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And literally, about 2 weeks later, I got invited to go to the Phoenician Resort here in Paradise Valley, Arizona. to meet Sheila and to have a glass of wine. And so I showed up that night, and that's where I typically hand the story over to Sheila.
Well, Orion, as you know, I've been doing intuitive psychic work now for 5 decades. And so it's not unusual for acquaintances and friends in different parts of the country or even the world who I've worked with, if I come to town, they want to get together, be social. And so when the woman that Marcus is speaking about, I met in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And she and I both lived there at the time, but then we both moved away. However, I was in Santa Fe 26 years ago this month, and I met with another mutual friend that said, I'm going to say Donna is the friend's name, who had moved away when I did, had moved to Scottsdale. And if I ever was going to come to Arizona, to call her because she'd like to reconnect. And so in March, I knew I was coming here in April of 1997. I called her and I said, I'm coming to town to give a talk. And she said, oh, let's meet for a glass of wine when you get into town. There's a couple of people I want you to meet. And I said, okay. So we said we'd meet at the Phoenician. My very best friend lived here, and I flew in from Colorado, and I was staying with my friends, so I invited them to come and have a glass of wine with all of us. And so we showed up at the Phoenician Resort and met with Donna and one of the guests she had invited that she wanted me to meet. And I didn't know that Marcus was the other one. And he wasn't there yet. So we were all sitting out on the deck or the bar area outside. And we're just having a wonderful conversation. And I felt Marcus's energy come in the building. Now, I didn't know it was him. And I didn't know what it was, but I've had many, many unusual, phenomenal experiences with energy over the years. And so I felt this surge of energy in my body, and I thought, wow, what is that? So I'm just casually looking around thinking, where is this coming from? Not thinking of a person necessarily. It could have been a deceased loved one of somebody's. It could have been anything. Let me put it that way. But it was a surge of vibration that came through my body. And so we continued our visit, and Marcus walked up to the table. He was probably 10 feet away, and I felt this jolt of energy, and I looked up to see him standing there, and it literally took my breath away. Now, I thought, oh, he's pretty cute, but it wasn't that. It was, whoa, I don't know what's happening to me. I can't breathe. Who is this? What's going on here? My mind was clicking away. And I knew, because Donna spoke to me about giving him my book, so I knew he knew more about me than I did about him. And I literally, seriously could not breathe. And I know that sound all romantic, but it was like gasping for air.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no. Well, I just said, I know, what's your story? As he sat down. Well, he's a good talker. So that was a blessing. And so he began to tell me his story. Luckily, that saved me because I could breathe. And my mind was going a million miles a minute. It was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. I mean, even beyond attraction, beyond what we normally do as humans when we're attracted to somebody else, it was bigger than that. I can't describe it. I just knew it was important. I'm going to use the word huge. And part of what went through me is, what if he doesn't get it? What if he doesn't feel the same energy? What do I do with that? Because I knew it was bigger than us as as the people we were. It was a bigger thing going on. And so we had a lovely evening. And then Marcus and the other friend was Marcus's best friend from college, who he had introduced Donna to, and they became a couple. And,
Wow.
so we had a nice evening, over a glass of wine. And then Marcus and Donna and Chip, the other gentleman, came to my talk the next evening. And then we just started developing a friendship, really. Marcus?
Yeah, and just to fast forward about a month later, Orion, we were going down to the Havasupai Indian Reservation, having on a vision quest down into the Havasupai, which is in the middle of the Grand Canyon, on the way down to the Grand Canyon, just this beautiful oasis that exists here in Arizona. And I had invited Sheila to go with me. I told her I would take her the next time we went, and I called her up and I told her we were going, and I gave her the dates, and she said,
I can't go. I had already arranged to do a presentation that week in Anchorage, Alaska. So I said, that's just not going to work for me. I would love to go, but let me know the next time. And so he said, okay. I hung up the phone and it immediately rang. I picked up the phone and it was the organizers of the event in Alaska telling me they were going to have to postpone that event.
Wow.
And so I immediately I said, okay, and hung up the phone and called Marcus back. And I said, I can go now. So there was a lot of stuff in the works behind the scenes for us to be together as well.
and then we'll just share one quick story about what happened when we got down there. So several things had been happening that were of a multi-dimensional nature. And one of the things that happened when we got down there, we were sitting outside a sweat lodge. It was two young Native children that were there, and they'd been with us the couple days that Sheila and I had been down there already. They were kind of hanging out with us, and we had a simultaneous, this is a very magical place that we're talking about. It's very electrical, vibrationally. We were sitting outside waiting for our turn to go into a sweat lodge. All of a sudden, you know how these experiences happen, Orion, where we had a collapse of time and space, and we were in a different time.
Wow.
And we were dressed in different clothing. It was probably several hundreds of years ago. The children were also dressed differently. The landscape changed. We were still where we were sitting physically, but it was a different scene. And as I looked at Sheila, she looked at me, and we both said, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" And we began to describe to each other what was experiencing at the very same time this was happening. We've all had, you and Steph and I know have had amazing experiences. You've had some remarkable experiences in your own relationship, I know too. But this was like, whoa! And then all of a sudden we were back in present time.
What was the sweat lodge? Did you take peyote or ayahuasca, or was it just the sweat lodge?
No, that's a good question. There were no psychedelics involved at all. That's a really good question because there was no ayahuasca, there was no peyote, there was no psilocybin mushrooms involved. We hadn't ingested anything, and but that's kind of the cool thing about the experience is it was not drug induced at all, right?
Yes, amazing. What time period were you in? What was the relationship there?
It was probably, don't you think, Sheila, it was several hundreds of years ago, I think.
It was certainly in our multidimensional experience. It was in a timeline, if we were talking linear time, probably, it could have been 100, 200 years, because not much has changed in this reservation.
Wow.
Because it's a place that you either have to ride horses into, hike, or now helicopter. You can't get in there any other way. There's no vehicles. It's between the rim of the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River.
That's so magical.
And it's been there for hundreds of years.
I want to go there.
The people are called the Havasupai tribe, but it's the people of the blue-green waters, and it's just a magical place. And there's waterfalls, and the water is turquoise. It's just an amazing magical place.
So in this magical place, you guys are having this magical out-of-body, multi-dimensional, maybe different timeline experience. You look, nobody else sees this, just the two of you.
Yeah, just two of us.
So you understand that there is some kind of like some beyond connection between you two.
Yes.
When did you know that, Sheila, you kind of knew he was the one probably when you met him?
Oh, I knew immediately. Yeah. And like I said, my biggest fear was he wouldn't get it. You know, when you have that profound an experience, it's what about the other person? Are they having the same experience? It didn't take him long to catch up though. It was, but you know, we've had many of those kinds of really interesting multidimensional experiences together. And so, you know, these things started proving that knowing correctly. But again, when I was first engaged in that energy between us, I'd never experienced anything like that before, and I'd experienced a lot of stuff, as you know, a lot of phenomena. This was something different, really different.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've always known is that I would have a partner, a male partner to do this work with. And that's what it's turning out to be, is that soul contract that we came here in these bodies to do this work with Theo.
Yeah.
Because Marcus has his own metaphysical background and experiences and his own way of bringing his knowledge, his energy into this whole Theo group collective.
Yeah. Thank you for answering my question before I asked it.
You're welcome.
What was it like for you to allure her or to finally probably ask her to be your girlfriend or a romantic partner?
Well, she was, Orion, she was easy. She was really easy, actually.
He had
No,
me at hello.
Come to find out, I had her at hello. When we came, so we were down there for 5 days. We were down camping for 5 days. Now, I would not, Orion, recommend necessarily going on a camping trip for most people on your first date for 5 days. Probably not a great idea, but this worked out so well. We fell in love down there. We came to my house in Scottsdale, which was about a 4.5 hour drive. We came back to my house. The next night, I had a group of friends over to meet Sheila and THEO. Sheila channeled THEO. That night, we went outside, and it was a beautiful night. After everybody had left our house, we went outside. We stayed up all night. It was another experience. It was an ineffable experience. I can't even begin to describe what happened that night, except for one significant thing that did happen. Because it was kind of it was just all this multidimensional stuff that was going on with us. And at one point, I said, well, you know, we were kidding about what an amazing first date we had. And I said, so what are we going to do on our second date? She says, well, I don't date. And then these words came out of my mouth. Well, I guess we'll just have to get married.
Oh, my goodness.
And I had, yeah. And she said yes. And I evidently had proposed to her, and I had no idea that I was going to do that. And that did, word for word, happen precisely as I just stated it. And so we just, from that moment, there was a no-doubtedness that we were going to be together, and that this was the beginning of our life together. And there was, you know, 1,000 reasons why that was a crazy idea. I was raising a 9-year-old daughter, mostly by myself at that time. And boy, the greatest bonus mom in the whole world showed up to assist me in raising my daughter.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was amazing. She moved from Colorado to Arizona and
Beautiful.
gave up her life there, and which I'm just so grateful for. And we just, there was a no doubt in this, though. It was pretty cool.
It's beautiful. What is it like to have a relationship with a famous psychic? Like you when you marry Sheila, you marry a huge community, and in some way you marry THEO as well. So what is it like?
So as you know, THEO is 12, collective of 12 archangels. I have not yet woken up with 14 of us in bed yet. There have been no feathers anywhere. You know, it's great. To answer your question, it's amazing. I mean, it took about 15 years into our relationship, Orion, for me to go to work with Sheila full time. So I was working with her part time, doing events. We did a book several years ago together, but for the most part, I had my consulting business that I had grown over the years, and I was just very happy doing what I was doing. And then all of a sudden, 10 years ago, or yeah, it's been about 10 years now, I said to Sheila, I can't do this part-time anymore with you. I need to be full-time with you. We agreed that it was the time. And so, but yeah, I mean, just, marrying someone who I admired so much professionally and then fell in love with personally was a pretty cool combination, frankly. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of time people say don't meet your heroes because you can get disappointed. So I'm glad you did.
She didn't disappoint. She did not disappoint. No. In fact, when I first met her, Orion, she was softer. She was prettier than she was on the back of the book. Like, she had this beautiful picture on the back of the book, but that picture didn't resonate with me. When I met her in person, she was much more, just softer, more, just prettier when I met her in person. I was very attracted.
Oh, I can feel the love, and so what brought you guys to write this book? The Art of Relationship: Discover the Magic of Unconditional Love.
A few years ago, Marcus asked Theo, "What's next? Where do you want the focus to be on the work?" And they said relationships. And so we said, okay. And we started doing the Art of Relationship retreats. And they would be 3-day retreats, a long weekend. And they were phenomenal. And so we did filming in those retreats as Theo worked with individual clients. To your point, when you spoke about the book and relationships, it speaks to all relationship, predominantly relationship to ourselves, and then every other relationship in our lives, our primary partners, our family, our friends, our work relationships, because Theo says everything's relational. And if you think about that, everything we do in life is a relationship to others. And so it speaks on all levels. There's 12 chapters of information there of how to navigate relationships now. And it's a powerful dialogue, let's say, between Marcus and Theo, Marcus and I, and clients who have had transformation working with Theo in the relationship to themselves and others.
Yeah, and what Sheila's referring to, Orion, is in the book, we don't just have a dialogue with Theo and myself asking the most common questions people want to know about relationships, although that is part of the book for sure. And with the emphasis, and we cover this in multiple chapters, the relationship to the self. It's becoming that vibrational state of being of unconditional love that, as you know, Theo has been teaching us now. We integrated into this book multiple one-on-one sessions with Theo from those that had participated in some of these live Art of Relationship retreats, so that people could see, they can read about, they can read and see and listen in the new program coming out, all of my questions with Theo, but then also take that from, just our conversation and then see it, live with someone who's actually going through these things that we have just been talking about. So it's not just theoretical, it's very experiential, And we found, and then they share their own stories about how that information that Theo gave them about that particular topic really changed their lives. And so people can kind of see themselves in this book. They can read a chapter. Every chapter has at least one. Some of them have more than one-on-one interactions with Theo on the topic that we're talking about. And what the feedback we've received is that people love being able to see themselves in other people's experiences, which really brings it to life for them, to be able to make it more applicable, instead of just theoretical, they can experience it. Yeah, and so that's kind of how the book is set up. But the heavy emphasis in the beginning of the book is on loving the self and how loving the self changes everything. And we have a process that Theo's been teaching us called soul integration, which is a simple yet multidimensional process of understanding core circumstances in which untrue beliefs about ourselves were first created that aren't true, And the multidimensionality of it includes previous incarnations as well. So it's got some shamanism in it. It's got some different components in terms of the actual process itself. But it's a personal process of self-discovery that people are having fantastic transformations, deep levels of inquiry in terms of who they really are, and why we do and think and believe the things we do,
Yes.
and how to change them.
What is self-love to you? What is the meaning of self-love?
It's letting go of limiting beliefs. And those are the beliefs that we believe about ourselves that are unworthy and not enough. That we're not pretty enough, we're not handsome enough, we're not smart, we're not valuable. And they're just beliefs that have been created in situations and circumstances of life outside of ourselves where we adopted the opinions of others or we created an opinion about ourselves because of what was happening. This is simply untrue. And when we can change those beliefs, and beliefs can be changed, events and circumstances aren't. They're just our history. But how we view those can change, and we can see how important they are in our growth and who we become because of them and how strong and courageous we truly are. And as we do that, what evolves is an unconditional love of self that is a state of being, not a feeling. If I could describe the feeling would be being at peace inside, no matter what's happening outside. Theo says, be like the hurricane. Inside a hurricane is calm. No matter what's swirling and how high the winds are, how damaging the rain might be, or whatever's going on outside, the center is calm and peaceful. And so that's what unconditional love is having that soul-centered place in us that no matter what challenge we're going through, we know we can manage it and learn from it and move on because things are always changing. Challenge is just the curriculum of our life. That's what grows us. So, Marcus, you may have more to add, but that's my definition.
Yeah, I would just add, so if you work with the premise, Orion, that any thought or belief we hold about ourselves that is not unconditionally loving is not true, and that's a true statement. So if you work with that, then the expression of how that shows up in our lives once we move into the state of being that she was talking about is, we establish and maintain healthy boundaries. We say no when we mean no, not yes out of to be accepted or loved by somebody else, right?
Yes.
We hold our own authority in a deep, powerful way, but we use the word power in a really positive way, right? Authentic. We're comfortable expressing our vulnerability and our truth. When we are faced with decisions or opportunities, the fear or the resistance or the lack of the not enoughnesses, as Sheila was talking about, are no longer present because we know that, yes, so that I can do that. If not me, who? That we understand and embrace and really, are comfortable sharing our very unique gifts that we all have. And we don't enter into relationships any longer from a place of
I need something from you. I'm in a place of lack, so please.
there's no
Yes.
neediness anymore in it, right? It's all preference. And not only are we not filling the woundedness within each other, but we're lifting each other up within that relationship.
Beautiful. What's the fastest way to access the eye of the storm?
It's soul integration. It's Theo's process of soul integration. It's removing all of those limiting beliefs about the self that hold us back from having that experience. Because the state of being that Sheila's talking about it's really, if you can imagine, Orion, one of the ways we've been describing it is that your higher self just drops right into your physical experience. Within that is all the memories of the soul. So we've been talking a lot lately in our community and a lot of our mentoring programs about this whole process of remembering who we really are.
Remember who you are, Simba.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that came up the other day.
You must be watching that movie.
Probably a lot, I'll bet, huh?
The Lion King? No, no. Actually, I've never watched it with my son because it's a little scary and he's still kind of young. I want to protect his mind from a lot of. I find the Disney movies can be a little scary, so he's still in the slower paced movies.
But anyway, that's kind of I think that's a pretty good description of it. So that where we would typically feel fear, resistance, or lack of trust, or there's in this energy there it's all empowerment. There's no victimization of any kind. Life is happening for us and with us and through us, as us, not to us. There's a lot of different ways you can describe it, but it's really like Sheila said. It's getting into that state of being where there's no worries about the future. There's no regrets of the past. We know that whatever challenges our soul creates for us, we're going to just accept them and know it's all going to be fine. And ultimately, I would say too, Sheila, don't you think that the quality of our relationships just becomes so rich and so kind of spiritually resonant, magnetic almost? Ryan, you know this in your experience, how
My experience with you guys was so surprisingly beautiful because sometimes, like some people are different as teachers or gurus and they're different in their different life, when you meet them. So when I met you guys, it was just, we had dinner together and it was just a beautiful experience. And I see how you guys treat each other and you walk your talk. There's a beautiful chemistry and it's just so pleasant to be around and so much love. That's my experience with you guys as a couple. I just think that you guys are just beautiful from the inside out.
Oh, thank you.
well, thank you. We feel the same way about you and Stefan. And as far as when Stefan and I first met each other, that's that connection, that spiritual connection that we met from. I mean, the first time we met each other, huh?
Did he choke with you?
He didn't joke with me.
He had the same experience with Orion that I had with you, Marcus.
Yeah, exactly, and we had an awareness, like a recognition, and that's kind of, one of the chapters in our book is called "Haven't We Met Somewhere Before?" It talks about this resonance, this magnetism, this remembrance of maybe we've been together some other time. Here we are now again.
Yes, yes. Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, Theo tells us that groups incarnate together to support each other's growth. And so when we speak of haven't I known you somewhere before, to me it verified and validated that statement as you live life. There's just people who you meet, to your point, of just being really comfortable with, and it's like you've known them forever. It may be, and it's
Yeah.
usually the first time you meet them, it's just, oh yeah, I know you. that kind of thing.
Right.
But if you think, and Theo tends to refer to people like that as our soul family, that we've chosen to be here at the same time to interact, and for whatever the purpose is. We hear a lot about soul contracts. I think that's the big soul contract that my one of my daughters that works in our company, she said, "Mom, I know before we were in bodies, we were saying, I'll go if you go." Can you imagine meeting up with a group of friends and say, "Okay, you want to have an earth experience? I'll go if you go." So there's levity in that, but it feels kind of good to think that we do that. We choose to incarnate together, to grow together, and sometimes challenge each other to grow. So I have thought a lot about how many people do you meet in your entire life, whether it's just for a moment, you're in an elevator, you're walking down the street, you're anywhere in the world. How many people do you run across? Tens of thousands, probably. But how many people are you really connected to? How many people are you attracted to? In those numbers, very few, if you think about it.
Yeah, how can we call on more people from our soul family?
I think we meet when we're supposed to meet, and it may be that we're together for a time, reason, season, or a lifetime, that saying. And some of those that stick, the lifers, they're really our soul family, because it's not just for a lifetime, it's eternal.
I think it's being open and welcoming it too, don't you think, Sheila? I think intention. I think just having the awareness that it's possible. Number one, the belief that in fact that's really what's going on, you know, and then being able to make it welcome. You know, being open and receptive to it when it happens.
Yeah, I guess you can recognize your soul family when you're in a higher vibration and more open. Because when you're in high vibration, you're more open, you have the right intention, and so you can recognize them.
Yeah.
Almost like when I met Stefan, prior to the event that we were in, I'll meet him for coffee, but then it will be like hi, bye, and goodbye. And because we were both going through some processes where we were shedding and peeling off the masks, and we were in a very like pure place where we met, we were able to recognize each other's light. Where I'm telling you, like a few days prior to that, he would be just another date.
And I think the key that you just said there was recognizing each other's lights. That's beautiful.
And I totally agree with you, Orion. Marcus and I could not have met before that moment either. Because I know, certainly, because I would come to Arizona to be with my good friend, and I would come and visit her often, not every other week or something, but I was in Colorado, she was in Arizona, and I would come and visit for a week or so, and Marcus lived not far from where she was. I mean, we could have been in the same restaurant at the same time. I mean, it's just, we could have been on the same street or at the mall or, but we never crossed paths at all.
Yes.
And before that time, over the years that I had been visiting Arizona, visiting the Phoenix area. So it's proof to me that there is a certain soul timing when we're supposed to come together, and then nothing will stop you. I mean, there were a lot of reasons that Marcus and I should not have made that commitment when we made the changes in our lives. People in our lives were shocked how quickly we came together. I mean, it was perfect timing for us, not for them, because it happened so fast. But when it's really the right timing, your soul knows.
Yeah, and there is a flow to it. You're not pushing upstream. You're going with it.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people try to push relationship, especially single people that are probably have lost faith in love or maybe have some trauma from past relationships. Sometimes they will forcefully try to make a relationship happen or even a wedding happen. And it's not like you cannot like force love. You cannot force relationship. You have to come with, after you heal your own baggage and with pure heart into a union and a sacred union. I don't believe in relationships that are, let's get married because it's logical and it's the right time and I'm already at this age, so let's do it now. I feel like it needs to be coming from your heart.
I think the reason why you and Stefan and Sheila and I were able to be open to the relationships we have is we believe in magic. We believe in miracles. We believe in something really amazing going on, that isn't 5 sensory, 3-dimensional. Rather, it's beyond that. There's something, like you said, more sacred going on. And we were aware of the possibilities, as you two were as well, or else we couldn't have been together, and you guys couldn't have been together if you weren't open to the possibility of that happening. And that's what happened with us. And it was one experience after the other. And I know you guys had some amazing experiences when you got together as well.
Well, I think I like what you said, Orion, about really doing your own personal work in the sense of loving the self. That's what we're talking about. And Theo says the paradigm now of relationship is not needy, to your point when you were talking about that, but it's preferential, as Marcus said. And that's because we're recognizing that in the past, The woundedness in us was attracted to the woundedness in somebody else. And if I can fix you, you'll fix me. And that's impossible. And it's not someone else's job. It's an inside out job, so to speak. We have to fix ourselves on the inner to really be available to the kind of relationship we're talking about.
And if somebody is single and listening right now and they are desperate to find love, what are some advice that you can share with them?
Lose the desperate.
And stop looking.
Stop looking.
I can't tell you the number of people who ask Theo, am I going to find my love? And of course they will. But Theo will always say to them to stop looking. And they'll say, well, will you tell me? And they'll say, no. Do you know? Yes. Will you tell me? No. And they'll say, because you won't live your life. You'll be looking around every corner, wondering, is it this person? Is it that person? Because we get in that desperation of wanting that fulfillment, because we as humans want love. We want to love and be loved and have that fuller expression. And so, of course, it's a top priority for most of us. And if it's not, it's because we've been hurt and we're afraid of being hurt again. And that's where the integration comes in. To your point, if you're doing your own integral work on the inside, it naturally flows to you.
And to be clear, be clear what you're manifesting, and be clear, what traits you want in a partner, and to make sure that your core values are aligned. Even journal it out. Be looking at that list of what it is you're welcoming and bringing into your life in the way of a partner, and ask yourself, am I all that? Right? Am I exactly of that same vibration of the one I'm seeking? And so it's a vibrational match, as you know, and it really is it's a thoughtful process. And then once you do that process, it's like anything else that you're manifesting in life. It's intention, it's paying attention, but it's also a welcoming process. Once we had a client one time, Orion, say, I just want to clean up my side of the street to make sure that when that person comes in, man, I'm ready. That I got my stuff all figured.
Beautiful. So beautiful. It's about taking personal responsibility for who you are. It's not like I'm gonna like this is my other half. No, it's not your other half. You are whole and complete, and together you create something even more beautiful.
So true. Well said.
Exactly.
It's so true.
The person found their dream partner, and now there is maintenance to be done. What are some of your tips to keep the fire alive, to strengthen the partnership and the communication within a relationship?
Don't take it for granted.
Yes.
Keep your sense of humor.
So easy.
I've become more and more convinced that a sense of humor is the key to a happy life on top of everything else. But lately, we've been asking Theo a little bit about humor and that childlike awe, that whole frequency of the eyes wide open, everything being just staying curious together, not taking ourselves too seriously, being able to laugh at ourselves and with ourselves. In other words, being able to have that awareness of how goofy we are sometimes. I've asked Theo a few times, like, what do you find funny about us? And they say, well, everything. We find you guys hysterical because you continue to, kind of make the same mistakes over and over again. And you continue to not remember how magnificent and how incredibly loving you really are. And that's the thing that they find most interesting about us. So honoring that within a relationship. And don't you think also, Sheila, listening, just listening and coming from kindness and compassion. We have two rules in our relationship, Orion, that work really well. One is we rarely disagree on much, really, but when one of us feels more strongly, if we have a disagreement about something, and one of us feels more strongly than the other about anything, then we always acquiesce, because it's just more important to you than it is to me, or vice versa. And the other one that works really well is we allow ourselves in the moment. We're really good at self-correcting. So if one of us is speaking crossly or just isn't coming from love. One of Theo's favorite questions for us is to ask, what would love do? And if we are in an interaction with each other that isn't the answer to that question, we are really good at self-correcting in the moment and say, hey, I think we need to have a do-over here. And we'll do it in the moment before anything escalates. And we're also really good at asking ourselves, if I had to do all over again, what would I do differently? And that question right there eliminates a lot of future, conflict or hurt feelings, just because we're pretty good at, like I say, at self-correcting.
Sheila, what do you like the most? What do you love the most about Marcus? Marcus.
Oh, everything. But what do I love most about him? He still makes my heart skip a beat every time I see him.
Beautiful. And what about you, mister?
You see that smile right there, Orion? You see that smile?
I do.
That smile right there, and that's not just a physical smile. It's her essence, her sweetness, her love. She just, and for me, it really is about her humor. I mean, I mentioned that just a little bit ago. I mean, we really, I think, are very blessed to find each other funny, and we crack each other up. And I made it my goal to not get out of the bed in the morning until I've made Sheila laugh at least once before we get out of bed. It seems to work pretty well. And I have to be honest with you, the other thing is she's beautiful. I told her when we first got together, I was really shallow about, that kind of stuff. I needed to love looking at her face and her eyes, and she's got that going on too. So that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt.
Beautiful. Wow. I feel all warm and fuzzy just watching you guys and listening to you guys. It makes me feel very good. So thank you for sharing all that. What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
All right, I'll take. Well, the first one is keep your sense of humor. We just take ourselves too seriously, I think. Don't you think, Sheila? That's one.
Yes, and really keeping that childlike quality of curiosity. It doesn't matter how old we are, we're still going to discover something. If we're still breathing in these bodies, we're still alive. To remain curious and, have that sense of awe about life. I know I love animals, I love nature. And we have a dog, and I walk our dog every day. And we're fortunate to live in an area that we have a lot of wildlife that's around as I do my walking. And I'm always seeing things with the birds and the animals that I'm just loving every day. And just being present in those moments and just looking around, we tend to take life for granted. We get all busy in our intellect. We get all busy. And we forget to be present in whatever we're experiencing. And that's one of the things that Theo has taught me, to be more present. Not so busy in my day that I can't take the moment in. And that's a childlike thing. Children, they're very present. I can remember as a kid, if my mom said, well, wait a minute, if we were going somewhere, I needed her for something, and it seemed like an eternity. And that's the kind of presence that I'm inspired to try to remember, because, gosh, there's so much creativity and so much we can learn from in those moments if we just are aware.
Yes. Beautiful. I know that you guys have an incredible offer for our listeners. Maybe you can share a little bit about where can they find the book, about your courses, and where can they find them, and also the beautiful gift that you are going to share with them.
We do have a guided experience with Theo on the topic of relationships, which is a beautiful experience of Theo guiding us into a personal experience of ourselves, I guess you could say. And also a link, if you would like to purchase the book, it's at AskTHEO.com/love. This gift is really kind of a neat kind of personal experience that you can have with the vibration of Theo and the place that they guide you into. So AskTHEO.com/love, and then everything else is on our website at AskTHEO.com. You can take a look at all of our mentoring programs. We do a lot of complimentary live Ask Theo live experiences for people to meet Theo live, so you can come on in, we'll keep you informed. as to all the opportunities that are coming up. We got a lot of fun things happening right now.
Yes, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Sheila, and thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you so much for being here, being so beautiful and loving, and sharing the love with the world, and helping so many people just to feel more fulfilled, feel more self-love, and step into their greatness. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for today.
Thank you, Orion. It's great to see you.
It's been our pleasure.
Yes,
We're
thank you.
grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember to keep your sense of humor, keep your childlike curiosity, be in nature, be present in the moment, and have stellar life. This is Orion. Until next time.